Alright, next we're going to tie a tarpon fly called the Tasty Toad. And this is was kind of adapted to a tarpon fly. The original Tasty Toad was a bonefish fly. But it kind of got adapted and is now one of the real go-to tarpon flies. So we've got a 2/0 Gamakatsu SC17. You can use whatever you want to, but this thing is a kind of a workhorse of a hook. Pretty darn strong, and it needs to be. So just going to start by giving the whole shank a coat of thread real quick. Next we're going to take a marabou plume. We'll tie kind of a tan and chartreuse one. You can tie all kinds of different colors of this fly. And then as far as length, that's probably 2.5 shank lengths is about what we want to do. Tarpon flies have kind of shrunk over the years in a lot of places as the smaller flies seem to get bit better. I'm just going to wind that on right down the shank, almost up to the eye of the hook. And next we're going to take some hard saltwater monofilament. This is like 16. You could also use 20. It doesn't have to be. It can be any kind of mono. And we're going to cut off maybe a inch long piece of it and just kind of bend it in half. About like that. And we're going to slip that underneath the marabou and just pinch it along the shank of the hook. And tie a little support, a little monofilament loop back there. And what that helps with, if you do throw a bad cast, it'll keep the fly, the marabou, from fouling around the hook. If that little mono loop wasn't there, and you threw a tailing loop or a funky cast in a hurry to a tarpon, and that marabou fouls, you know, obviously the tarpon is not going to eat a fouled fly. So that little step right there is pretty important. Next I'm going to take some Zap-A-Gap and just kind of soak that thread in that mono. Next we're going to take some EP fiber and divide out maybe a matchstick size a clump of fiber. Oh, forgot a step. Before we do that, we're going to put a little bit of flash in there. Four to 6 strands. Don't make it too flashy. You don't need much. Just going to wrap it around the thread, and in just a couple of wraps secure that right on top, trim it about even with the marabou. Next we're going to take that EP fiber and just cut off a couple of maybe 1/2 inch length. We'll need about 5 or 6 of them. And just going to lay those right on top. And with that still tacky Zap-A-Gap, we don't need a ton of figure 8s. Really just maybe 2 or 3 a piece. And just march your way right up towards the eye of the hook. Last one. Perfect. Now, to trim this, we're going to trim it into kind of a V shape. A cool little trick to do it quickly and evenly on both sides is just to pinch that fiber and just using the curve of your fingers as a guide, give that a little trim. And then you see when you spread that out, you kind of get it even on both sides. And then you can kind of give it maybe a little final trim. You want it fairly aerodynamic. You don't really want to get it too fat. That's one thing you see with people tying these flies. Just a nice kind of aerodynamic shape. And then lastly, we're going to put on just some monofilament dumbbell eyes up front here. Quick little figure 8 on there. Make sure they're nice and flat to the shank of the hook. And we're pretty much done. Quick whip finish. Some Zap-A-Gap. I'll go ahead and put another little bead just to finish on that exposed thread. And you've got your completed toad fly. Pretty easy, pretty quick.